coincidental. We actually planned it last year, but it's worked out to be really, really fitting. It's Train Wrecks, Nightmares, and Meltdowns, Tales of Lessons Learned from Our Procurement Heroes. My name is Sarah Scudder, and we've teamed up with 4 sponsors to bring this series to you for the entire year to help our industry collaborate, to share ideas, share some laughs, and get some wisdom from our sourcing peers. I am the president of Real Sourcing Network. We have an innovative and painless way for companies to procure print for less. I want to start off by giving each of our sponsors a couple minutes to talk about how they're innovating in their space. And we've got some sponsors doing some really, really cool things with technology and some really new innovative solutions. So super excited for them to be our partners. So Eric, let's start from you from New York.
Thanks a lot, Sarah, and everyone joining in. I manage the partnerships and alliances for Rapid Ratings, and we're happy to be a sponsor of Procurement Talks and a partner of RSM Network and Synertrade. So Rapid Ratings, we're setting the standard for financial health, transparency between business partners, and transforming the way procurement teams at leading companies manage enterprise and financial risk. We provide predictive and prescriptive analytics. During these trying times of the COVID impact, we're measuring the financial health of public and private companies. And we're known for sourcing the financial statements for private suppliers directly in over 140 countries on behalf of our clients. And this year, we've been conducting a lot of stress tests for clients on their suppliers to help them anticipate the impact from the COVID-19 downturn. So enjoy the discussion today. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Eric. And it looks like you have some nice weather.
Yes, thank God. I'll take it.
Beautiful.
Clear.
All right. Next, we have my friend Brenton from Synertrade joining us from Southern California. And he's been living the fires and the terrible smoke with me for the last month.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I'm enjoying our nice sunny and kind of sunny-ish day down in here in San Diego. It's not as bad today, but so I'm with Synertrade. We're one of the larger source-to-pay global providers here. In my roles, I lead sales and partnerships here for the U.S., but we cover everything from supplier relationship management, source to contract, and procure to pay. So I think during these times, we've really focused on, as people have been working from home, really helping compliance and governance. As people want to purchase, how can we control what people purchase? So really advancing our procure to pay and our e-marketplace. But that's been the exciting part this year.
Yeah, and it's been nice to see your growth in the U.S. I know a couple years ago you were primarily focused in Europe, so congratulations on your successes.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Brenton. Next, we have my friend Ken with the cool jersey on the wall, also joining us from Southern California.
Yeah, we've been dodging the fires down here too. I mean, I just can't believe how much ash is still falling as I clean off my desk here in the morning. It's amazing to me. But cool jersey. Mike Bibby from 1997, the championship game. Very cool that I was part of that as a student there, alumni, obviously. But hey, so I'm from Worldwide Services, and we are in the IT hardware market, server, storage, anything telecom regarded in your network. And actually, we just bring instant savings. We bring lots of different solutions, whether that be supply on end of life, support on end of support type items. And we're talking all the different OEMs from Cisco to Alcatel-Lucent to Juniper, you name it. We're the guys that go in there and kind of extend the life of your warranty when the OEMs want to take it out. So we're here to help. But yeah, thanks for allowing me to join this and help sponsor this. This is always great. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Ken. Looks like you have nice weather as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice day today.
Enjoy.
A little hazy.
And then we've got my 2 friends, Sanjeev and Manish. They're normally in matching suits, including matching shoes, socks, and ties. So I'm getting used to their casual look, and it looks like they're actually joining us from a real office. So Manish, tell us about what you guys are doing and how you're innovating in your space.
Absolutely. First of all, to all the Californians, you can always move to Michigan. I'll start off by that. My name is Manish Center. I'm extremely happy to be part of this sponsorship because it's an extreme learning experience for me and my brother. we are the co-founding team of TechWise Group that focus on two primary objects of the business. One is statement of work on 5 skills category, and the second is talent acquisition wherever we can't do the project. So we are still connected with the clients. Our operation has expanded from US, Canada, Australia, India, and we just started the operation in UK in COVID. So we are very happy about expanding in UK. And thanks to a lot of our clients, because they really gave us the opportunity to go to UK. We were able to use their team to learn certain things that we didn't know about the UK market. One of the things that we have done really creative in today's market is connecting network. One of the great example I can give is, even though we are in a technology part of the platform, a lot of our clients are not procuring technical projects or technical talent because the focus is something else. And we have used our network to still connect those people, because solving a client problem is not just with our business, but also with our network. And we have been really, really being appreciated by clients that we want to be a part of their network. We want to understand what they're fighting right now. So that's an exciting phase for us as a business. I'm going to say one nice thing. One other thing which is really nice about COVID, for the first time, I have allowed myself to put all the weight on, eat everything I wanted to eat, and not feel guilty.
I have to say, one benefit for us today is we actually can see the sun and can go outside without a mask on from the smoke. So love the positivity, Manish.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for joining us. All right. So with that, again, a big thanks to our sponsors for making this event series possible and making it free for you, so you get all this great content and engagement at no cost. So a couple housekeeping notes, and then we're going to kick off the panel with our moderator, Anna McGovern. So Brandon, you can see his bow tie photo, is moderating all the technology. So if you have any questions or need help with anything, feel free to send him a message or note in the chat. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat function and a Q&A function. These are meant to be super lively and engaging, so feel free to post comments and engage in either of those. And you will see that we typically have a pretty active discussion throughout our events. Brandon and Anna will be managing the questions that come in. So if you have a question for a specific speaker, feel free to put their name, and we'll make sure that question gets directed to them. If not, you just have a general question, you can go ahead and put that in there as well. We will be doing a couple polls. We typically do one towards the beginning and one towards the end. You'll see it pop up on your screen. Anna will read off the question and the different options, and then Brandon will show the results. We try to make those kind of fun and engaging throughout the event. So feel free to partake in those polls. So with that, I'm going to introduce our moderator today, and we have to all give Anna a big shout out. She stepped in about 10 minutes ago to moderate Daniel Barnes, who is a wonderful guy, and he's got the cool beard going on. He got really, really sick today, and so he wasn't able to moderate. So Anna is an absolute superstar in supply chain and has become quite a dear friend. And so I called her, and Anna, thank you for stepping in.
It's my pleasure, Sarah.
So I'm not a fan of boring bios. I like to make things a little fun and personal. So I'm going to give you a couple fun facts about Anna, and then I'm going to switch it over to her so she can kick off our panel discussion today. So Anna McGovern is the CEO and founder of Pondview Consulting. She's an entrepreneur and actually just started her own company this year. So super, super excited for her. She is a baseball mom. You can often see her rocking a jersey. Her son is a big baseball player. Oh, there we go. She's an orchestra mom. Her other son is really talented musically, and she's a Yankees fanatic, as you just saw. Anna does a lot of volunteer work, which is really cool. And I always like to hear people's first jobs or kind of how they started out in their career. So Anna's first job in high school actually was an order verifier. She worked for a telemarketing company that sold magazine subscriptions over the phone. And her job was to call back the customer and verify that they truly placed the order to keep those salespeople honest. And her and her husband got married 10 months after they met, and they celebrated their 20th anniversary in June. So really, really cool story for them. So Anna, with that, I'm going to pass it over to you to kick off our panel discussion today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I can't believe you have all those facts at your fingertips. And, I'll apologize in advance if I'm a little bit rusty, since I only had 10 minutes to prepare for this meeting today. But, this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I've spent half my career in the end-to-end supply chain, and then the other half, the better half, in procurement. So most of my career highlights, I can probably count them off one by one, had to do in one way, shape, or form with a success story dealing with a supplier. So I love procurement. I love win-win, and I'm honored to be among such a heavyweight group of people today. You guys are all tops in your field, and I'm delighted that I could be your moderator today. So with that, I'll just kick it right off, right? So the theme is talking about our procurement nightmares and train wrecks. And, I love those kinds of stories because they always help us to grow. And there's always a silver lining. When we face these nightmares, there's always some real strong positivity that comes out of those. So Jaime, I'm going to start with you. If you'll let me, and what I'll do is I'll ask you to introduce yourself, and then we can kick off with the first question. So I'll ask you the question, and then feel free to tell us about yourself, and then get into answering the question. So if you could please share with us one of your biggest career challenges and your learning from that experience. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Thank you, Anna. Hello, everyone. So I'm Jaime Robles. I'm the new CPO for Casey's. In case you don't know what Casey's, and I just joined the company 2 months ago. Casey's a $10 billion company. It's a Fortune 500. We are the 4th largest convenience store company and the 5th largest pizza company as well. So we sell a lot of pizza. And we have 2,200 locations across 21 states in the Midwest in the U.S. So that is my company. That's Casey's. So going to the question, what is one of my biggest challenges? I will need to go back in my career at the very beginning, fresh out of college, when I got my first job in the automotive industry. I remember that. I was in charge as a planner buyer for most of the most important raw materials for the company. And this is an automotive company. So it's steel, coke, sand, others that we do for a foundry. The plant manager was a very tough guy, automotive. So it's tough, it's difficult management, old school from the 70s, 80s, and everybody was scared of this guy. So, and if you stop the supply chain in the automotive industry, everybody knows what happened, right? How many suits and the millions of dollars per hour. So my ask was simple. You need to reduce inventory levels. We got months and months of inventory levels in those raw materials, and you need to reduce them. So there I am, out of college, fresh. I know everything. I'm very experienced. So I can reduce this to just in time for sure. And we were bringing all these materials from the north of the U.S. just in time. And I started implementing just in time techniques. And so pretty soon, 6 months later, we were like pretty much couple days of inventory only. So saving tons of money, cash flow, everybody was happy, but everybody was very nervous, right? So everything was going well. And then 9/11 hit. So 9/11 shut the border and nothing can cross. So that was complicated time of my life. And what was the learning there? Well, that I had a great manager. He knew what I was doing. He knew I was taking a lot of risk, and he had a plan B that nobody knew. He had hidden somewhere inside the country enough inventory levels for the next 2-3 weeks that saved my ass pretty much during that time. And that was very scary time. And that it was a very good learning point in my career very early about don't be that, dumb and think that you know it all, that you need to rely on experience and you need to rely on people that have been there for a while and things can happen. And it was a great experience.
That's a great story, Jaime. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing because what really tests our mettle is when a crisis hits, which then let me shift now to you, Cheryl, because you've had a very long and storied career in procurement, and you've seen it all. You've seen the transactional purchasing, and you've seen the evolution to more strategic procurement. And, a story that Jaime just shared, really has to do with how do you partner with suppliers to get you out of a crisis. So can you, based on this beautiful career that you've had in procurement, can you share how the evolution to more strategic relationships, helps us to avoid some of these crises, and what are some of the things we can do? So pulling on your own experience would be great.
Of course, and thank you. And I'm calling or talking to you all from Boston, Massachusetts. So I'm actually still on a high from our Patriots win on Sunday. Don't hate me. And I have, as Anna mentioned, have a very long 20 plus year career in supply chain and procurement and love it. And I'm currently now with Stryker, which I'm even more pleased to be with, given all we've done as a company during this pandemic and the emergency relief beds that we sent to New York. And all the PPE equipment. So I'm particularly pleased to be there. I've only been with Stryker coming up on 6 months, so I'm new there. So I spent most of my career at EMC, which was purchased by Dell in the supply chain. So, that was kind of being raised by the nuns. So I was very fortunate that I was, learned a lot and did see that evolution and that growth from, kind of a one and done transactional pleasantries to more of the partnerships rather than just, transactional supplier relationships. And I think what's gotten me through what I've noticed really to be successful is those supplier relationships, the sharing of information, joint business planning. It's more of a marriage, and I'm stealing this from one of my VPs that I just loved, but it's more of a marriage than a one-time date, right? So, and if you're able to engage and develop those relationships, and I've seen firsthand how it happened. Just a quick story. While at EMC, one of our suppliers, we ended the quarter with about $15 million worth of inventory. They were not happy, and they worked off very low margins. And per our contract, we would have to buy that at the next month. And we didn't really want to do that. There was a lot of technicalities around doing that. And so we negotiated a carrying cost. And what I said to them was it was a very low carrying cost, and it was already in the contract. So I negotiated it from a 1.5 to a 0.5% carrying cost. But what I said to them is, look, if we still have inventory left the next month, I'll pay you another 0.5%, because I could see where this was going. We were only down about $10 million. We still had a long way to go. And the second month, we still had about $4 million left of that inventory. I told my planner, we will pay them. And he said, well, they're not asking for it. So, we don't have to pay them. And I said, no, I gave them my word. We're going to pay them. And we did. Now you fast forward about a year later, we had $25 million left in inventory at the end of the quarter. And I went and visited them. They have opened a new facility. They were in California. And I met with the president. It's a very large company. And they decided they were just going to let it go through. So we didn't have to pay any carrying costs. They let the business just go through, and it was a higher number than it was before. And I do attribute that to the partnership that we had and projects that we worked on to try to eliminate that going forward. So I can't stress enough how important it is to develop those strategic partnerships. And I do talk about it a lot and write about it a lot.
No, and that's fantastic. And you're preaching the gospel of procurement to my ears, because that's exactly what it's about. And it's interesting that you use the term marriage. It really truly is a marriage. And, there's there's only one way to end a marriage, right? Death or divorce. Yeah. So you have to be very careful. So, with that, I think I'm going to pivot to Gaston, because Gaston, we talk about supplier partnerships,
yep.
But at the same time, there is that arm's length when you need to get into a hard negotiation, right? So, sometimes negotiations go well, and sometimes they can go horribly wrong. Has there been a time when you've explored a negotiation where it did go terribly wrong? And can you describe that for us and describe what happened and how you got out of the situation? And then please take the time to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Anna. Well, I want to start by saying that I want to say hi to everyone, but I'm going to start with Stephanie. Stephanie, how are you? And then Cheryl, how are you?
Hi. Good.
See, I want to make it like more real. And Jaime, how are you? See, that way we can make it like more real, right, for people. See,
Yeah.
So when I want to talk to Stephanie, I'm just going to go like this. Okay, so good. My name is Gaston Alvarado. I've been in procurement probably more years than I want to admit, more than 20 years in procurement. I've done probably pretty much everything that you can imagine within supply chain and procurement. I started like Jaime as a buyer many years ago. I was a supplier quality engineer at some point. I was a supply chain guy, and then I was in logistics as well. And one day somebody asked me if I wanted to do indirect, and I said, yeah, why not? And that was more than 15 years ago, and I love this, and I've been doing it since then. And I'm a global category manager for Materion. Materion is a public company. We do a lot of stuff that you don't see on the shelves. It's really, we call it really weird stuff because you don't see it. So it's just inside other stuff. Like, for example, when you think about the Hubble telescope, for example, those lenses that they use, we manufacture those things. Or when you see people buying at the store the little test strips for diabetes, we manufacture those things. So it's the kind of things that you don't see everywhere, but we're right behind there, just manufacturing that kind of stuff for other companies to put on their products and make it good for people. So that's about me. And I'm going to go back to the question from Anna. It's funny because when you're in procurement, you would think that you've seen all when it comes down to suppliers, when you start talking to them, when you go through negotiations. I am the kind of person that loves the collaboration. I love working with my suppliers and helping them to succeed in what they do as well, because as much as they succeed, our company can succeed as well. So I believe I'm totally a good partner for suppliers. So this has been my way to work since I started in this career. And so with that being said, you would think that, you can deal with some people that is hard to deal with, some companies that are really hard to deal with, that are not easy in any way, from all the way to the top, to the last salespeople. And through these years, I thought that I had seen it all. And the funny part is that just recently had a very, very interesting experience with a supplier. Like always, we're always looking for savings. We're looking for improvements and new projects, new developments. I'm the kind of guy that is always looking for innovation in the industry, innovation from suppliers. I like exploring new ideas, new developments, new products, new services. So in this search, it got me to a supplier that somebody actually recommended. And the funny part is that I really trust this supplier. It's a great supplier. So they recommended me this other supplier. And so I started working with them in the same pace, the same way that I always do. We were collaborating really well and helping each other, putting a nice plan to go back to our suppliers and try to find some savings and different things. And everything was great. Everything was great. It smelled like success. And so I said, okay, let's just pursue this, right? Big number of savings and big project. And okay, that's great. So, but what happened is after the initial analysis, when the numbers came back, I look at the numbers and they didn't look as attractive as we believe at the beginning. So my initial take was, this is probably a really big project to take on right now. We have many, many projects going on. And I said, it's probably not a good time to do this. So I said, you know what? I know there are some savings here, but I guess due to the situation we're living now, this is not the best time to do this. So I'm just going to pass on this. And the second I said that, I just got a very, very, I don't even know how to describe it, a very bad answer from the supplier. So the supplier started doing things that I've never seen before. He started threatening the company and myself to go with the board and everybody in the company and say, how about we do things in procurement that we don't know anything that we're doing, and things like that. So the situation got really, really bad. And it's the first time, honestly, that I've seen it. I've never dealt with people like that. So at the end, the situation a little bit got out of hand. So I'm the kind of person as well that my way to go is, I don't let anybody get me out of my cool. That's what I say all the time. And it didn't, but it was very close. But at the end, the way I got out of that situation was trying to negotiate with the supplier the best way to just not keep going with the relationship, explaining why we didn't believe it was a good solution for us by then. I took the numbers and I showed them and I said, we cannot do this for this amount of money and for this type of savings. So at the end of the situation, I was able to a little bit control the situation. But I gotta say that it was a bad experience with them, just because they didn't like that we were not willing to take their proposal. So I guess at the end, probably one of the things that I should have done at the beginning was to maybe understand or maybe dig a little more on the supplier and try to find out more the kind of approach they take in this kind of deals. But it was basically a pretty bad experience. So it went wrong. I was able to get out of that. And finally, we got rid of that supplier or that potential supplier. And basically, it's one of those things that you are just hoping that you never, you never find them in your life again in any other experience or any other company.
So, Gaston, while we're on that topic, there is a question from the audience that I think is appropriate. You said earlier about companies that are difficult to deal with. So can you just described a perfect example, but the question is, what do you mean by hard to deal with? That's coming from Embry Davis. Thank you.
No, thank you. So the way I see this is every relationship you have with your suppliers is no different like in life, right? So you deal with people that has a very easy going way to do business with, and you can communicate, you can come across with your ideas and explanations, and it's easy. And there's some other companies that the approach they take is very aggressive, is very, very aggressive. And what I mean by that is they push hard, really, really hard in a bad way to get you into what they're trying to sell you. And sometimes when you explain what you're looking for as a company, the way you work, it's really not enough to them. It's the kind of people that would keep pushing you and your boundaries and try to keep pushing onto getting to do what they want you to do. And in some cases in a nasty way, that's what makes it difficult. It's also all about personalities, right? I know that we cannot, not everybody likes us. But the same way, it's sometimes hard to deal with people that when you have the initial conversation, you just don't come across the message. And when you pile up things like their own personality, their own way to push, they're desperate because, a lot of companies are trying to push for business right now. We know that for sure. But the way they come to you, the way they push on you, that can put the situation, the relationship at the very edge. And I think that's why it's complicated when you deal with people that all they listens to their own needs and they keep pushing on that direction.
Right. And there's a great follow-up question from Embry Gaston. Yep. So was this the supplier or was it just a bad relationship manager or, the person in charge of the sales relationship? You mentioned personalities. So
let me give you a little more of that story because I think it's going to be helpful for the audience. So when I was able to get away from this situation, turns out that this guy went to his, president, owner, whatever they call it, and he reached out to me. And I want to say to the audience that this has been the worst conversation I've ever had in my life. It was the worst ever by far. And actually, when I talked to my boss and he said, really, are you sure? And I said, I'm sure he's going to give you a call and you're going to see what I'm talking about. And he did. So this person went to his boss and he gave me a call. He left me a voice message, the nastiest message that I had in my phone. So I called back because, his tone and his message was basically that he was going to go to the SEC and put a claim and he was going to sue me as well for being dishonest on this business, and that he was going to go to our CEO. And he said that he already left a voicemail to the CEO, and then he started insulting me on the phone. So I gave him a call back, and I tried to tone things down and try to make it work somehow and make it, like a peaceful, if you will, deal. And we spoke for about 15 minutes, and 14 of those he was just speaking, and he was enraged between insulting me and calling me names and, telling me that, basically throwing threats at me. He was going to sue me, and the worst conversation I ever had in my life. I'm not even kidding. So I talked to my boss and I said, I'm sure you're going to get a call from this guy. So I'm just, getting you the heads up. And sure enough, a couple minutes later, he called my boss and he left a voicemail, not on the same tone, of course. But still when he talked to him. So at the end, we both talked to him and we came to the same situation, same conclusion that this is just the kind of company that we don't ever want to work ever with not even hear the name of this company. But that's the kind of situation that I was in. And like I said, I've been on this for more than 20 years. And this is by far the worst ever experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I come in and say, some of my best career highlights are with suppliers, but we know that procurement is not for the faint of heart. So we know that these kinds of nightmares and train wrecks definitely exist, which leads me to Stephanie now. So Stephanie, you've been in procurement for quite some time, and you've grown in the profession over the last many years, and it's treated you well. But can you describe, for us a time that maybe things didn't go so well? So what are some of the hardest lessons learned that you've had over the course of your career? And please make sure you take time to introduce yourself and tell us about the lessons learned from those difficult situations.
Sure, be happy to. I'm Stephanie Schrader. I work in the Nashville area, so I should have started this off with a hi, y'all. You can't tell from my accent because people will say to me all the time, where's that sweet Southern draw? And it's just not there. But I do live in the Nashville area and work for a really good company, Pride Sports. The larger name of the company now is McNeil Pride Group, because we're in an acquisition phase and we've been buying some companies that are in the sports related or outdoor recreational type businesses, industries. So we are the only domestic supplier of golf tees, wooden golf tees, left in North America. We are the Soft Spikes brand of golf cleats. If you have the cleats on your golf shoes, chances are they're going to be made by us, by our company. And then we also do things like children's toys, Lincoln Logs. And we bought Orca coolers here recently, which is a competitor to Yeti. So if you know Yeti and like Yeti, get to know Orca, because I'll tell you it's even better. And it's made most of the products, not all, but most of the products made here in the United States. And just really cool company to work for. So yes, I've been in procurement for, well, a long time, as 25 plus years. Started out with not coming from a background in procurement. So I started out in customer service mainly and had a customer service manager role. I worked for a division of Illinois Toolworks, which is a Fortune 500 company. So I came out of college into a customer service role and felt the big head with corporate. And, you know, I've made it. I'm out of school. I'm making a salary, all excited. And I was asked to do some procurement for a new startup that they were kind of under this Illinois Toolworks division umbrella, starting in the transportation industry. I knew nothing about purchasing, but they knew that I was a go-getter and would ask questions and basically would not take no, or would negotiate, you know, and not be afraid to ask for better pricing. So they tossed me into this procurement role, where I've started, and I fell in love with it. And I've stayed that route ever since in my career. So I have learned so many things, so many hard lessons. One of the lessons that I've learned early on, and this was fairly early in my purchasing career, I was afraid to ask questions. Some of it could be because I was a female in a man's world, you know, in the company that I was in. And so I thought if I asked questions, it made me look less knowledgeable, unprepared. And so I was very hesitant to ask. And as everybody knows, if you don't ask, you don't learn. So I wouldn't ask questions, and I would come with the confidence level of, oh, I've got it. I can figure it out. I'll figure it out on my own. Well, I had about a $70,000 mistake early on in my purchasing career that literally had me in fear of losing my job. So when it comes to country of origins, I'm sure most of you know in procurement, you have to stamp the actual product or the individual unit that's going to be sold out into the marketplace. Well, I was fairly new and thought I knew it all. And so I was, you know, telling our vendors to mark the boxes with the country of origin, made in China in this case. So we got all these boxes in and had probably about a year's worth of inventory and things coming into our warehouse here in outside of Nashville, Tennessee, when I got a call from our broker one day and said, can you tell me the end use of XYZ product? And I said, yeah, it goes on a flatbed truck and it secures the load. We're in the load securement business. It secures the load of what's ever on the flatbed so it doesn't fly off and hit cars, etc. Okay, so they're individually being used. Yes. Are they marked with the country of origin individually? I don't know. I mean, I assume so, but we mark the boxes, so it doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter. It does matter, Steph. If you're breaking open the box that says made in China, selling individual components out into the marketplace, especially with a high liability, these are cargo straps that are used to tie down metals and different machinery and cars and things being transported across the road. So one of these breaks and, you know, there's a huge liability. So anyway, long story short, we had customs down at our warehouse the next day from Nashville. And it's that kind of scary feeling when they come in because they're not dressed as policemen, you know, but it's that principal kind of thing where there's a superior here or somebody that is enforcing something, and this happens to be the law, that is asking for you and wants you to go with them to your warehouse. So we took the trip to the warehouse, and most of our product was not marked correctly. So I can't remember if it was $60,000 or $70,000, but at the time, back in the early 2000s, I know it was like $20,000 more than my salary even. And I was so afraid that, number one, I was embarrassed. Number two, I was afraid I'd lose my job or they'd tell me that I had to pay for some of this. So we ended up taking care of it. Customs is great to work with in the Nashville area, and they allowed us to go back and mark the products accordingly. So we were able to get out of the fine, but it took a lot of work and there was a cost to it in the end. But I learned that, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay whether you're a man or woman, working with men or women, we're all human, to be able to ask and say, okay, so when we do this, should we do this way? It's okay to even ask what I consider some of the dumb questions, that maybe I should have known this. Maybe I should have known that it went on the individual component, but I didn't. So I really took that lesson to heart with, okay, I'm going to start asking, even if it's, I've asked it a couple of times and I'm not understanding, I'm going to ask the questions. And, it's okay to be, I don't like the word dumb, but it's okay to be the dumbest in the room. As a matter of fact, now I want to hire the guy or girl that's 10 times smarter than me. And I want to be the one that's in the room surrounded by the geniuses, because that is the way I learn. And that is what has gotten me to the place I am now, where I feel like I have so much more to give and to help others because of these hard lessons that I've learned, and being able to see the people around me that know so much more and ask them for their expertise, their experience.
Right.
So that's one of the lessons.
Yeah, and that's actually a great story in leadership, right? So it's how you get supported and what happens, which is a great segue to a question that I want to ask Jaime, because so much of what we do in procurement is really about how you manage people, how you manage talent. And it really is about surrounding yourself with people that are going to stretch you. So Jaime, if you could please, you're a CPO and you've got a long career behind you. Can you talk about the leadership aspects and the people aspects of creating successful procurement teams?
Yeah, well, I believe that the team is the most important aspect of any function. In procurement, you can put whatever technology you want, processes, systems, tools, you can call whatever, but at the end, it's all about people. It's how you build those teams around you, how they are way smarter than yourself. They can push you to the corner. You don't want to be the smarter guy in the room. In fact, you want people that are way ahead of you, that is going to help you to grow. So, also in my career, I always been working for these global, complex, large organizations across the world. And when you operate in that type of environment, everything is remote. Everything, these distance, these video calls has been my whole life, to be very honest. I never worked in the same place where my team was located in the past. So for me, this was normal. And when you are into this relationship with your team, communication is everything, not only the quantity, but the quality of the communication. And if you involve different cultures, different languages, then it gets even more tricky, right? So what you're trying to say, how do you secure that your counterpart understood what you were trying to say? And then it's very complicated. So one of the stories I had, I got a great team member in my team in Europe. I won't say the country, but he was one of the top. He was a great performer. He was amazing, but he had very rough edges. So he was complicated to deal with. So he get tremendous results. He was amazing, but he always left bloodstream behind, and people didn't want to work with him. So he gave the results, but the how, it was complicated with him. So it was very difficult interpersonal skills. And so at that time, I gave him a project, very important project for the company. We were on board in another organization that we took over, and we were doing the whole supply chain integration of that company. So he got the things done, but pretty much stakeholders didn't want to work with him. And things got escalated to the point that I was strongly advised that I need to fire this person, pretty much. But I truly believe on him. And I felt that I was not investing enough time on him from my side. So the easiest decision was, let's remove him, let's bring somebody else, and let's move on. But I felt that if I wanted to be a good leader, I need to reflect and think about what I was missing as a leader. I truly believe, and this was my learning experience, I truly believe that your team is a mirror, is a reflection everything that you do as a team leader. If he was not performing, he was not connecting, and he was missing different aspects of the how, is because I was not given enough time, I was not given enough coaching, I was not providing the good segregation of roles, responsibilities, talking to him, coaching him, helping him, listen to his needs. And he was extremely frustrated. And I was not listening to that. So after I did that, and after I had this honest, transparent discussion with him, I think we were able to team up and to turn things around, to make a plan and see how can we do things different. And I'm very proud to say that after I move on, he took off, and he is a very strong leader in another company. And I'm very happy about that decision. And I never regret about doing it the same. It was tough. It was complicated, but it's always about thinking about yourself first as a team leader.
That's a fantastic story. And it's a good segue into a question from the audience. Tiffany Scarlett is asking about red tape and having to strategically influence up, right? So it really is about the how. It's not just about the right skills, technical skills, but it's about how do you strategically influence, how do you communicate, and how do you work with others. So Stephanie, if you could answer the question of how do you influence so that you get through the red tape, you recommend the right course of action, and convince leadership that it's not just about the easiest route, but about the right route. And then if you can follow that up by speaking about a mistake from your career that resonated with you, and how did it shape who you are today, and what did you learn from that mistake?
Okay, so let me actually, Anna, say the first part to me again, talking about leadership as far as my company's leadership. I'm sorry, did I say Stephanie? I meant Cheryl. Okay. That was meant for Cheryl.
No problem. Yeah, I thought that was my question. So managing up for the red tape, I mean, I'm a big proponent of data, right? So bring your data, because they're not as close to the situation. And so you have to kind of explain it to them and what are you trying to accomplish? So I always, when we do, standard PowerPoint presentation, here's the data, and here's, by the way, our recommendation. And then it incites a conversation, and oftentimes they'll come back with, additional questions, or they agree with what you say. So that I think the fastest route is data. Now, it doesn't always win, because as procurement professionals, I always like to say procurement's more of an art than a science, maybe, and you sometimes have to use your gut, right? And sometimes the data could show, well, this supplier would be the less expensive or whatever, but they may be the longest route to get there. There may be more qualification. It may be a heavier lift. It's a lot of unknowns. You have to put risk in there as well. So make sure that you bring your data and also have your recommendation, so that you're showing that leadership, you're showing that you've thought about it, there's been some thought put into it, and that you've done the legwork. And I think that's the best way to get a resolution, when you're managing up. As far as things that I've learned, actually a very big lesson I learned when I was at EMC, McKinsey had come in. As many of you know, they're consultants, and they spent a couple of years with us, and they were teaching us about should cost models and clean sheets. And they're very skilled at this. It was an Excel workbook, and it had a lot of formulas in it, and they went over it very quickly. This went to this went to that. And many of us earlier in our careers were not financial wizards, right? We didn't have a finance background. And they had made a mistake at a supplier, and I wasn't happy about it. It was in the middle of a negotiation. So I sat with them and made them go through this clean sheet every single step of the way. And I actually became a power user for it. But one of the questions I had was, as they were going through all the metrics, we're going to pay for this, we're going to pay for that, you're going to pay. They didn't believe that you should profit off of material acquisition or any of the work that needed to be done. You were just given a profit number, and they picked a number of 9%. And I said, well, where did you get that number? And they said, well, that's the number we use. And I said, well, I need some math. I'm not going to sit in front of VPs and CFOs and tell them that's the number we use. So we went on, carried on. My team actually won the President's Award that year, which is a $10,000 bonus for every single one of us because of all the money we saved. About 6 or 7 months after this whole process, the VP that was in charge of this project came and sat next to me, and he said, when we were picking teams for McKinsey, you were kind of in a gray area. And he said, they weren't sure they were going to pick you because you made a comment that you weren't going to sit in front of CFOs and, you weren't going to argue that 9%, basically. And I happen to be fortunate, and we're not always all this lucky, that he had my back, because he said, well, wait a minute, I don't think that's what she's saying. I think what she's saying is, I don't understand it, and I need you to explain it to me so I can explain it. And what I learned was, you got to watch what you say, because I said something very New England blunt, very direct, and that wasn't what I meant at all. And he was exactly right. Like, where did you get that number? I need to see some math, but it was the way I said it and what I said. And it's something that and this happened many, many years ago. So it's something that still resonates with me, that I still think about. You don't always see yourself how everybody else is seeing you. And you need to learn to, edit sometimes and make sure that when you're making your point, it's in a way that can be received by someone else. I think people can get behind people being direct, even if it's not their style, but there's a difference between being blunt and direct, or even being rude and direct, right? So it's something that I learned early on in my career. I wish he had told me a year before that. I probably would have made a lot less mistakes along the way, but pay attention to your delivery and how you're communicating your messages.
That's a great story. Thank you for that. And the power of data is really what it's about in terms of, influencing in the right direction, which leads me to the concept of being a customer of choice, right? So we heard from Gaston earlier about the kind of power that a supplier could wield, even a horrible supplier like that he had to deal with in the example earlier. So Gaston, can you share with us, some of the most valuable lessons you may have learned along the way from doing the exploratory and looking at new potential suppliers? What are some of the lessons in your career that you can take away from that?
Right. Thank you, Anna. I think to me, the key for this process when you are going to engage with a new supplier, and I think this is a very common practice in the industry. In most organizations, what you see is, and this is no secret for anybody, you see a procurement leader moving from a company to another company, and he goes not only with his team, but also with his suppliers to the organization. And you see a procurement professional moving to a different company, and he takes all his suppliers to the other company. So you're just remixing the same names, supplier names in the same companies in the same area. This is not new. You've all seen this, I'm sure. So to me, what makes a difference as a procurement professional, when you really want to make a difference, you really have to start thinking a little bit different than that. I remember many years ago, I had a boss. I used to work for a company. I was an operations manager there. And so we got a new boss coming. Our boss moved to a different role. So we got a new guy coming. And somebody asked him actually the question. He said, are you planning to bring some of, the people that used to work with you? Are you planning to bring someone? And he said something that actually marked, my professional career. He said something like, when I go to a new company, he said, I always want to have or give myself the opportunity to meet new good people. And when I thought about it, I was at the moment, it was like a complete shock for me because I never heard that, before from any other leader. Everybody was just coming to companies and bringing their teams and their people that they know. And So when he said that, I was very surprised, and I was gladly surprised to hear that. And he actually did it. So when he came, he didn't bring anybody. He just started, getting to know us and creating a new team based on the talent that he found on the company. So down the road and through the years, I've been trying to do exactly the same. I've been trying to do the same with the suppliers. And yeah, there are suppliers that that they work well and you got your contacts. And so when you go to another company, the easiest way to go is just to bring the same supplier and tell them, okay, this is what I found here. Help me out on this. And let's just negotiate a good contract for this. And that's a common practice in the industry. So what I've been doing, the last 5-10 years is what I've been doing is I've been consistently trying to find suppliers everywhere that I go. And I'm on a consistent search for new suppliers in every area. And in my experience, I found very good suppliers that even sometimes are new suppliers to the market. A couple of years ago, and this is probably my best experience so far. I was looking for a supplier that could help me managing a portion of the spend that was very hard to find someone. And actually, there's not many companies in the market that do that. So I was trying to find that. And I was looking, I talked to the traditional companies, I talked to people, and I went to different, shows and demonstrations and trade shows, whatever you want to call them. And I just couldn't find the right supplier. I was just finding the same in the market, the same type of solution. And I was frustrated because I thought to myself, well, there's got to be something out there. So the funny part of this is, and I'm a very active person in LinkedIn. So actually, I saw a post on LinkedIn. Somebody on my network posted this company name that I never heard before. So I said, that's interesting. So I just clicked there and I just started looking. I started researching the supplier. I went to their website. I started, looking around, and I decided to reach out to them. And I had the greatest conversation with the guy. And actually, I didn't know that, right at the moment. But, after a few interactions, I realized that I was talking to the CEO, actually, of the company. And the nicest guys in the whole company. So I started digging and, let's just put together a business case for ours. And we took probably 2, 3, 4 months between the research and trying to see if this could be a good fit. It was a whole new model for us and getting the buy-in, both sides, the story on that. So at the end, we decided to go with them. And I put a target and I said, you know what, this is something new for us. And I said, how about if, because they said, yeah, you can get an ROI in 60 days from our product. I said, well, that's great. And I said, what if we don't? And so at the end, I was able to negotiate with them. And I said, you know what, we need to do this right away. And I said, how about if we, let's just get a trial. And if we see those numbers, then we sign for the long term. And they never did that before. So they were able to, they were willing to do it. And we got the ROI in less than a month. Oh. So it was an excellent experience. And I said, yeah, we're going to keep going. We've been working with them for about a little more than 2 years now. And we got now a full integration with our systems. We're seeing wonderful savings. But even beyond that, these guys are the benchmark for customer service. They do an outstanding customer service. And I would have not got to that if I did not give myself the opportunity to keep researching and looking. And a lot of people don't give much credit to places like, LinkedIn, because, everybody can post anything there and things like that. But if you keep an eye open and if you keep looking, you can really find new solutions, new alternatives to the market. And in my case, that's been so far my best experience when it comes to exploring new suppliers and trying to find the best solutions for your organization.
In a post-COVID world, when travel is so limited, we need to think of LinkedIn as a 24/7 networking opportunity, right? So it's almost like it's a live event, and that's how we need to look at it. That's a fantastic story that really touches me. That you gave a new supplier a chance like that, and then to do the trial was a stroke of genius. Thanks for sharing that with us. I really like that. So So that's a great way to be innovative, from a procurement perspective. That is true innovation, Gaston. So I applaud you for that. So let me pivot to.
And you know what? If I may, just one more thing. I think what makes also the difference is not just that part of the process, but also I have to say, because he deserves the credit, I got a great boss. My boss is always open to those kind of things. He knows that I'm a little crazy. He knows that I'm always searching for things. So, but he supports me all the way. And in that same process, he's always been willing to just ask me the question, what do you think? And if he believes that it makes sense, he's always willing to support. He doesn't shut the door and say, no, we don't want this, we don't want to explore that. He's always willing to learn and explore along with what I'm doing. And that's a key for the success as well.
That's a huge statement. I think coupled with the story that Jaime shared earlier, it really takes a strong leader who's going to empower their team to get better and deliver to their potential. It really takes someone having your back and believing in you. So just the two stories you've just shared, I think is a huge takeaway from today's discussion. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
So it is about growth, right? It is about, leadership. It is about growth. It's about learning from these nightmares and train wrecks, So Stephanie, let me shift the discussion to you. Can you share an epiphany from your procurement career that you can share with the group that, sort of resonates in terms of what we're talking about here? And then before you do that, hold on one second, because there is a poll that I want to read to the group. And if everyone would please answer the poll question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how messy or chaotic has your 2020 been so far? So please answer the poll. And while we're collecting those responses, Stephanie, if you could please give us your epiphany, that aha moment.
Absolutely. For me, it was very recently. So this is something that I'm still kind of going through. Probably about a year ago, I guess, maybe a little over a year ago, we all tend to get comfortable, whether it's in our personal life or professional life, we all get comfortable with our day-to-day routine. And I had found myself, like I said, about a year and a half ago, in that place at work thinking, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing a whole lot great though, and just me, my personality is I'm not the 9-to-5er. I'm the one that, man, you get in there and you find new things and you go get it and you teach people and you learn from people. And I'm just a mile a minute kind of girl. So but as you go and as you're so busy, and our company is a great company and it's growing. So we're busy and you get into your routine and your monotony of just everyday life. Until one day you stop and you think, I don't think I'm happy. I don't think I'm doing here what I need to be doing to really grow me and grow the people around me and the company. I'm doing okay. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think I give it a lot, but I knew that there was more. So certain things had just fallen into place, but I thought I've never gotten any certification after my name. And we can argue the point. That's a whole different discussion that we could have on whether after being in procurement and supply chain for 20 plus years, you need a certification behind your name or not. But I thought for me, it just gives me that little added edge of knowledge, and people will see and respect me for what I know in this area. So I started down that road of getting my supply chain certification from ISM, my CPSM. Not quite there yet, but halfway through. That started me down a path of learning where I was looking at some just tag phrases and different things. And I thought, what is this? What are they? Some of it was old school purchasing type things, but some of it was new. And I thought, well, I do that all the time, but I don't call it that. What is that? So Google real quick or jump on LinkedIn and, who does this? Who knows what this is? So I started learning, and that brought a whole lot more to the picture and kind of jump-started me just a little bit. And if I can use the train wreck analogy, I was like this train that after 14 years of being with the company had just kind of run out of fuel slowly. And you get to a point where you're just there. And it's, do we go forward or do we put in reverse and just, what are we going to do? So jump started by some of this learning. And it took me to a place where I had seen on LinkedIn, to Gaston's point there, a Dr. Ahmad that he's over in Dubai. He is a doctor academic doctor, PhD doctor, but he's also a hands-on supply chain guy and supplier relationship management guy. So he walks the talk, but he understands the walk that we all do. So found him just as a fluke thing on LinkedIn and started following him. And I'm not shy, as you can tell. So I reached out to him. I'm like, I like what you're doing. This is really great, and just started chatting with him back and forth. Started attending during COVID, as many of you know, a lot of people that are guest speakers and talk show hosts, et cetera, that make a lot of money, put things out there for all of us that were really cheap or even free. So I took advantage of a lot of things that he was offering online, a $15 course on this or a webinar on some COVID-related things. There, within his realm, and me looking at him and learning from his videos, I saw this lady named Sarah. And Sarah was this marketing procurement professional who happens to be the person who has put this whole show together, Sarah Scudder. And I just, as a fluke, reached out to her and said, man, we don't do this at my company and maybe we're missing the boat. And I love what you're doing. Just, would you please connect with me, kind of thing. She did. And for those of you who don't know Sarah, you're missing out because she has then connected me to numerous people and opened my eyes even further. And she was the one who said to me, are you a part of the Procurement Foundry? No, I've never heard of that. So I joined the Procurement Foundry, which opened my world even more. And so within the last 6 months, I have gone from kind of sitting back wondering, where am I going here? How am I going to get to the next step? Do I even know as much as all these other people I see out there? Am I worthy? Am I good enough? Am I like them? To that, getting me back that sense of, yeah, you may call it something different, Steph, and you may not be in a $2 billion company. You may be in an $87 million company. And so things we do tend to be more small scale compared to the huge, maybe regulated type guidelines and things that big corporations have, huge corporations, but we're still doing it and we're still doing the same thing. And in the end, it's pretty much all the same type thing that we do every day. So my train has gone from being stuck to, full speed ahead, and things are happening in my career. And as we all know, our career affects our personal life too. So we say we can keep it all separate, but that is not the way real life works. If you're not happy with what you're doing or you don't feel like you're a success at work, then chances are, you're not really happy with your friends when you're hanging out. And there's always that balance of that combination between your work and your personal life. But it's made me so much better. The networking, you got to do it. LinkedIn was a great place for me to start because it did open my eyes to other business people out there, but it's jump-started me into all these different areas. And I'm at the point where I feel like I've just gotten out of college again and I'm ready to go. Let's do this. So it is exciting again to me where it hasn't been. So that was the epiphany pretty much that, you don't have to be stuck. I learned something years ago in a personal type seminar that I went to for a week out in the Napa Valley. And basically they were talking about, don't be afraid to move, to shift, change. It's okay, but you've got to make that first move. For me, it was signing up to do the CP, the CPSM certification, just as, okay, I'm going to prove to myself I already know this stuff. From there, it has just totally blossomed. And so it's such an exciting thing. So thanks to Sarah and to many of you who have helped all of this happen for me. So it's exciting times.
Thank you for sharing that wonderful story. Yeah, Sarah definitely rocks, and she is the ultimate connector. And that's really the key takeaway from that story is that, your network is your net worth. It's a cliche, but it's all about who you know and getting out of your comfort zone, right? So as one of the chapter leaders for Procurement Foundry, I'm glad you found your way to Procurement Foundry, that's for sure. So I think what I want to try and do right now is, since this is really truly about train wrecks, nightmares, and meltdowns, I just want you to share your favorite meltdown and how you dealt with it. So that's a question for all of you. So think about that for a second while we review the poll. So the results are on the screen from Brandon, and it looks like most of us have felt that an 8 in terms of how messy or chaotic 2020 has been. It's the year that just keeps on giving, doesn't it? It's not bad enough that we had COVID. We have wildfires and air quality issues and everything else this year. So that's the results of the poll. So I think I'll just shift a little bit and start with Cheryl this time, to give us her favorite meltdown story.
Well, first, let me say I'm not a fan of meltdowns, and actually, I would recommend don't do them, but especially if you work for me. But we're all human, and I think it's just exacerbated now because of what we're all going through with COVID, and if you're in California with the fires, and working remote, which is new for a lot of people. There's a lot going on, right? I mean, at a director level, at a Fortune 100 companies, obviously, I've tried very hard not to have them myself. So I generally don't. I generally have to deal with them from employees. But I will tell you, when my son was little, maybe 1 year old, and I was a new young parent, didn't know anything, and he was screaming, had a meltdown in the grocery store. I had no idea why. I was like, what's wrong with him? Is he hurt? Everybody's looking at me. And I just picked him up out of the little carriage, and I left all the groceries there in the carriage in the middle of the store and walked out with him. And then, of course, he stopped crying. And that's generally kind of been my way to handle these things, right? I just remove myself from the situation, or I go into another room, which personally you can do. When it comes into work, sometimes you do have to handle it. But I've had employees from all walks come in with fights in hallways. I mean, it's been a lot, and particularly now, like I said, it's exacerbated. So generally, I will try to remove myself somewhat. Like, okay, look, we're this is a circular discussion. Let's just pick this up tomorrow when we can both calm down. So I don't have any like major horror stories either from suppliers or from myself or from from employees, but they're definitely there. They definitely happen, and we have to manage them. And I would just prefer not to, actually, to be honest.
Jaime, do you have anything you'd like to share with the group?
I don't know if I can call it a meltdown, but I did have a very difficult, close to meltdown situation working for one of these companies in the past, where global organizations trying to move into one direction and is the wrong direction. And you're trying to convince the executive team that, guys, don't go there. No, that is not the right decision. But politics, bureaucracy, they've been there 30 years, so they still pushing into that direction. And, in big companies, there's a lot of politics, and I'm not really good at politics. So I kept pushing back and pushing and trying to persuade and convince and doing everything I could to tell the executive team, which is way above my pay grade, guys, that is wrong. This is all politics. This is not adding any value. Why you're moving into this direction? And it was an organizational change and transformation in procurement area. So there was this meeting where pretty much the CPO of the company with CFOs and all that stuff are there, and we're there, and they are literally moving into that direction. And I'm literally step in and said, this is really wrong. You're gonna regret about this decision. I'm not backing up what you're doing. And I didn't use those words, of course. I used different words. It was not a fancy way to put it. But I just said it blunt to the face to everyone. And I said, you want to move into that direction? I cannot be part of that. And the next day I quit the company, in fact. And yeah, a couple of years later, I noticed that it was the right decision. It was the wrong way to do it. It was a meltdown because it was not the right moment. I don't think it was properly delivered, but I felt so passionately about what I thought it was wrong. They didn't want to listen. They were more into politics. And I said, time will tell, and time was on my side. And looking backwards, it was a great decision that I took. It was a very difficult one, extremely painful and difficult, but I had to do it because it was not aligned to my beliefs and my values. And time passes by and people reach out to me and say, you were right. And I say, okay, good. Thank you. At least it pays back. So always believe on yourself. I would say, even though you have to melt down, you need to let those little volcanoes to explode sometimes, but believe in what you're thinking.
That's really good. Believe in your value system. Yep. If it's against it, then you did the right thing. Absolutely.
Yep. That's
a great story. Thank you for that. Gaston, do you have a meltdown you'd like to share?
I do. I just want to share one experience. And I don't know how much most of the group here has been experiencing with negotiating software. Software is one of those things that is really hard to negotiate. It's very market controlled in many cases. So I remember this experience years ago. I was negotiating a big contract. It's one of those software solutions that are when you find that it's only two in the market that are controlling the whole market. And so we were with one of those suppliers, and we were trying to find some leverage, and I was trying to get the other supplier on board because it was a good solution. And so the process was long, and I was working with the CIO then and other people in IT and trying to get this multi-functional team to get the most out of it. And finally was able to get a very good negotiation and took the price down for about 50% with the other supplier. And it was an equally good solution. Either one would have got us exactly what we wanted. So the meltdown happened when we started going to a little bit what Jaime said, a little bit into the politics of the relationships. So the incumbent had a very strong relationship with the organization, and they started going that direction. So they started pushing, using those that leverage they had with the relationship. And at the end, what they did was what they got at the end was basically got our committee convinced that the way to go was that. So it was a hard fight to try to get the organization understanding that the other solution was a better option at a better price. And for the long term, especially, was a lot better because the benefits would have been great for the organization. But it was not, it was something that at the end I was not able to get the message across. It was very hard because, my side of the project, my boss and the rest of the team, we were convinced that this was the right way the right thing to do. But the rest of the team did not. So it was hard. At the end, we signed with the incumbent, paying about 35% higher than we would have paid with the other supplier at the end. But those are, the kind of things that sometimes you are fighting more than just negotiating a price or dealing with a stakeholder. You have to also fight with politics and relationships. And that's what sometimes brings an additional obstacle to what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you for that, Gaston. So once again, I'd like to say procurement is not for the faint of heart. It's the most exciting career. There's nothing more exciting. And as I always like to say, procurement has been the bridesmaid for a long time. We finally have an opportunity to be the bride. It's an exciting place to be. It's a strategic part of the organization. I want to thank you all. I'm very happy that I could moderate this discussion today because I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I knew I would be learning a ton from each of you. You guys are tops in your field. And I thank you, Sarah, for inviting me. I'm going to turn it over to you now to wrap us up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Our next procurement talk is on October 13th at 1 p.m. I've posted the link in the chat if you're interested in registering. This is something we do every single month with the new moderator and group of speakers. So we get lots of perspectives from all different types of industries and different types of leaders. I want to give a big shout out to Brandon for managing the technology for all of our events. He does a lot of work on the back end to make the magic happen. So Brandon, thank you. And love the bow tie. You'll see he rocks the bow tie all the time. That's how you can recognize
He always
him.
does.
I want to thank each of our speakers. I know you guys are super busy with everything going on, so I appreciate you taking an hour and a half out of your day. And a big shout out, Stephanie. This is her first big formal speaking gig, and she did so great.
Oh, thank you.
So total natural. And Anna, thank you for stepping in 10 minutes before to jump in and moderate the panel. And I want to thank again our 4 sponsor partners. They're the reason why we are able to make these at no cost to the community. So please check out Rapid Ratings, CenterTrade, TechWithin, and Worldwide Services. They're all really doing some really, really cool and innovative things in their space. So with that, have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy the rest of your week.